Kiddushin Daf Yud Beis. We're on the fourth line from the top in Yud Beis Amud Aleph. So we were talking about Beis Shammai's shita that Kiddushin is with a dinar, v'shava dinar. So Reish Lakish said the reason of Beis Shammai is like Chizkiah, because Chizkiah says that v'hafta, that a Ama Ivriya can always she can buy out the rest of her term, and so therefore she always has to have been bought for more than a pruta, because there has to be some term of her servitude that can be bought out at the end. And just like Yud, there always has to be a possibility for Yud, so there always has to be a possibility for Gerin Kesef, so she can't be sold for only a pruta. So, and so the fourth line, last word on Yud Beis Amud Aleph, Kiddusha Isha Beis Shammai Nafku Humayama Ivriya. And Beis Shammai learns Kiddushin of a woman from Ama Ivriya, Ma Ama Ivriya, but Pruta Lamikanya, just like an Ama Ivriya is not acquired for only a Pruta, Afisha, but Pruta Lamikadsha. So a woman cannot be Mekudeshes for only a Pruta. So the Gemara says, Ve'ema Palga de Dinar, Ve'ema Shtei Prutos, maybe say half a dinar. Why is it a full dinar? Why maybe it should be 2 Prutos? So the Gemara says, Kevan Dafkisa Mi Pruta, Ukmea Dinar. Once that is no longer a pruta, they set it up at a nice round number, a dinar. Rava Amar Hanu Tanu Beis Shammai Shuli Benos Yisrael Kehefker. So that was Abai's reason. Rava gives, that was Reish Lakish's reason from Chizkiah. Rava's reason is Benos Yisrael shouldn't be like Hefker. So the nafkamina between Reish Lakish's answer and Rava's answer, Rashi says, is that according to Reish Lakish's answer, it's a diraisa that she's not mekudeshes with a pruta, but according to Rava, it's only midrabanan shelo yu benos Yisrael kehefker. So they need a significant amount to be married. Rashi says something though that I'm not sure. Well, that needs to be said by Rashi. Obviously, holds like it. Rashi says that Beis Shammai are mafkia the Kiddushin of anyone that was mekudeshes with less than a dinar. So, according to Rashi, it ends. Rava's answer is according to Beis Shammai midiraisa. You could be mekudeshes with a pruta, and that's why you need to come on to hafkas Kiddushin if they were mekudeshes with anything less between a pruta and a dinar. Okay, 2 dots, first wide line on Yud Beis Amud Aleph. Beisol Omer bepruta. Beisol says that Kiddushin is with the pruta. Savar of Yosef Lamemer pruta called who? Rav Yosef felt that it was any pruta. Amar le Abaye v'ha'ala ketani, but we learned about that in a brayso kamahi pruta in the Mishnah itself. Kamahi pruta echad mishmona beisur italki. How much is a pruta? 1/8 of the of an italki iser, I guess an Italian iser. Tema hani mila b'dor shel Moshe. And if you want to say that was only in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, but now it's whatever people consider to be a pruta. Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, and he told us that Rav Simai in his generation calculated how much is a pruta, and it was 1/8 of the current value of the current Isser Italki. And when Rav Dimi came to Eretz Yisrael, he said Rav Simai. When Ravin came, he said Rav Dostoi and Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Oshia evaluated how much is a pruta was 1/6 of the Isser Italki. So they were, each generation, they were making sure that they were pegging, to use a monetary theory word, they were pegging the value of the pruta to the Isser Italki. But we see, well, according to the first one, it was 1/8, just like our Mishnah was 1/8, and Ravin, it was 1/6, but it wasn't just whatever a pruta was. Amarle Rav Yosef. So that was Abayi's response to Rav Yosef. So then Amarle Rav Yosef says, Ihachi, if so, Hanu de Tanina, that's which we learned. It seems to be a Torah's Kohanim. That's what it says in the Masorah Shas in Vayikra. It Seva chashav kama prutos b'shnei slime, yoser me'alpayim. Go calculate how many prutos are with 2 selas. I think a sela is another name for a shekel. More than 2,000. Hashla paim lahavin yasmer paim karina lahu. But according to that, if it's 1/8 of it Isser Italki or 1/6, it's not even 2,000. Why does the Brisa in the Tars Chaim say it's more than 2,000? The Rashi says an important thing here that this Tars Kohanim was taught by someone who is getting benefit from Hektish. That if you got benefit from 1 prut of Hektish, you have to pay Korban Asham with 2 shkalim worth. So Rashi says, go calculate to distance yourself from Avera. Even for a shogeg, you need a very big kapara like this. So the calculation we'll see in momentarily. So Amar Lahu Asava, a certain elderly person said to Rabbi Yosef, Ana Tanina la Karav la Payim. I learned that the Brisa, the Mishnah that you're quoting in Tars Kohanim, wasn't more than 2,000, but it's close to 2,000. So the Gemara says, Sof alpha v'chamesh meya v'tlasen v'shisahu dahavian. So even if you say it's close to 2,000, that doesn't make so much sense either, because it will be 1,536. So the Gemara answers, it's not a problem. Since it's more than halfway, since it's more than 1,500, it's more than halfway between 1,000 and 2,000. The Tars Kohanim says Karav Lapayim. It's called close to 2,000. Gufa. So one of the Maimras we just learned. When Rav Dimi came to Bavel from Eretz Yisrael, he said Rav Simai in his generation said how much is a pruta? 1/8 of an Isser Italki. V'chiyasa Rabin Amar Shiru Rav Dostai Rabbi Yanav Rav Oshia Kama Hi Pruta Echad Meshisha B'Isser Italki. So they said it was 1/6 of an Isser Italki. Amarle Abai Rav Dimi. Abai said to Rav Dimi, Nema Ad Rabin Bepluksa D'Haitnai Kamil Mifla Gisu. Why don't we say that you and Rabin, whether it was 1/8 or 1/6 of an Isser Italki, are arguing in the shitas of the following Mishnah. The Brisa, the Tanya, because he learned in the Brisa, Pruta Shemer Chachamim Echad Nishmona B'Isser Italki. The Pruta that Chachamim said is 1/8 of an Isser Italki. Sheish Mea Kesef dinar. 6 ma is a dinar. Ma Shnei Pundiuna. And a dinar, and a ma is 2 pundion. Pundion Shnei Yisar. A pundion is 2 Issers. Isser Shnei Musmisen. And an Isser is 2 Musmusin. Masma Shnei Kuntri Kun. And a masmas is 2 kontrikon. Kutrikon shtei prutos, and a kutrikon shtei prutos nimsa pruta achas mishmona b'Isser Italki. So it adds up that a pruta is 1/8 of the Isser Italki. Rabbi Shema Gamliel Amar Shlosha Hadrasin Lama'a. Though there's 3 Hadrasin in a Ma'a, Shnei Hanitzin Lahadris. There's 2 Hanitzin Hintzin to a Hadris. Shnei Shimnin Lahanitz. Beis Prutos Lashamin. Nimsa pruta achas mishisha b'Isser Italki. So see, there's a machlokus between the Tanakama and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel if a prut is 1/8 of an Isser Italki, or Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds it's 1/6. So Lema Demar Amar Katamakama, Rabban Amar Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So Abaye said that Rav Dimi, you're holding like the Tanakama that it's 1/8, and Rabban holds like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that it's 1/6. Amar Le Ben Didi Ben Rabban Ali Tanakama Lokasha Hadi Ikor Isura Hadizal Isura. He says no, we both go according to the Tanakama. And it's not a question. Sometimes the Isser was worth more, and sometimes it's worth less. So just like we have currency fluctuations in foreign exchange nowadays, so there were currency fluctuations in those days also. When it got more valuable, there were 24 in a zuz. Hadizal kum tlasim v'trein b'zuzah. And it was cheap, there were 32 prutos in a zuz. Okay, very important. Gemara 10 lines up, us about from the bottom. And Yud Beis Amar Aleph. Amar Shmuel, Kitcha betamra, filu amid kor tmar bedinar mekudeshes, cheshinan shema sheva pruta b'madai. Shmuel says if you were mekadesh a woman with a date, even if a whole core, a very large amount of tmarim only costs 1 dinar, she is mekudeshes. We're worried, or we're choshesh that maybe in Madai, somewhere far else, they don't have such bountiful dates available. So in that locale, a date is Shava Pruta. So even if it's not Shava Pruta here, we're worried. So the Gemara asks, but our Mishnah says, Beis Hillel says that Kiddushin is with a Pruta or Shava Pruta, and this is clearly not a Shava Pruta here. So how can Shmuel say that it's against our Mishnah? It's not Shava Pruta. So how come he's Choshesh? So the Gemara says, Lokasha Habik Dushay Vada, Habik Dushay Safek. No, our Mishnah is talking about Kiddushay Vada. It needs to be Shava Kesef. And in this case, it's not Kiddushay Vadai. But Shmuel is saying there we have to be worried about Kiddushay Safek, and we will be worried about that. How cover the Ikdish Bezavda, the Ordi? I guess this is called batting. Someone was Makadesh, a woman with like stuffing for a mattress. Maybe she made teddy bears. So it was some type of filler material. Yaz Rav Simi Bar Chia Kamei de Rav. Rav Simi Bar Chia was sitting in front of Rav, and he was investigating if it was worth a pruta or not, to see if she was Mekudeshes. Ishava pruta in, if it was worth a pruta, she would be Mekudeshes low. And if it wasn't, she's not Mekudeshes. V'leis B'Shava pruta low. So the Gemara asks, and this is that if it doesn't have a Shava pruta, she wasn't be Mekudeshes. But we just had a statement from Shmuel that we're worried maybe somewhere else the stuff is scarcer, so she would be Mikudeshes, lo kasha, habikudushe vade, habikudushe safek. There's no kasha because he was looking to see if it's kidushe vade. But even if it was going to, the answer was going to be no because it wasn't worth a pruta, he would have been said that she was Mikudeshes misafek and would need a get if they didn't want to stay married, and would need new Kiddushin of Vadai Pruta if they wanted to stay married. But he wanted to know if this Kiddushin worked on a Vadai level. A certain person was Makadesh with a blue stone. It seems to be Rashi says shayish, so some type of marble. That's interesting. Shayish shachar damalakacha, black similar to blue. So there's a machlokus, Rashi and I think it's the Rambam, about the color of tchelas. So some say tchelas is blue and some say it's black. So this is called kuchla, even though it's a black that's similar to kol, Rashi says. Also, it seems that I think Gemara and Sukkah and Daf Nun Aleph seems that King Herod used a similar color stone for when he renovated the Beis Hamikdash. So if it's marble, it seems to be something valuable, unless it was a place near a mine, so everyone had chunks of marble laying around. I don't know, but Yasser Rav Chisda v'kamashayla ispeshav pruta in v'ilo lo. Rav Chisda was trying to evaluate it and appraise it. If it was worth a pruta, she would be mikudeshes, and if not, she would not be mikudeshes. So the Gemara asks again, v'leis b'shav pruta lo v'hamar shmuel chashinan. Why shouldn't she be mikudeshes? She should be mikudeshes misafek, because Shmuel said maybe this item is worth a pruta in Madai or somewhere else. So the Gemara says Rav Chisda lo savar le'di Shmuel. Rav Chisda doesn't paskin like Shmuel. We'll see why in a minute. How come it just didn't give the reason of habikudushe vade habikudushe safek? Amar le'ime, his mother said, "V'ha hu yoma dekitcha have." It seems the mother of the guy who was makadesh with this stone said, "V'ha hu yoma dekitcha have beishav pruta." The market value of this on the day he was makadesh was shavar pruta. Amar la lavu kaminach dasarta la basra. We're not going to rely on you to forbid her to marry someone else. Lav Hainu the Yehudis the Bisud Rav Chia the Havas Beit Tzar Leida, because wasn't there? And Rav Chisda said that there was such an incident with Yehudis, the wife of Rav Chia, the Havas Beit Tzar Leida. She had a lot of pain when she was giving birth. Rashi said she had twins. Amrale, she said to Rav Chia, her husband, Amrali, my mother told me, Kibel Bech Avuch Kedusha Kizutrasa. Your father accepted Kedusha on your behalf with a certain amount. So you can't stay with your husband. He's not your husband. You're married to someone else. Amrullah, and Reb Chia said to his mother-in-law, or to his wife, who was quoting her mother, Lav kol kamine diimach desarta le'eloi. We don't have to believe you that you're quoting your mother to forbid yourself on me. There is a medrash, I think it's a Tanchuma, and it might be in Tazria. I'm not sure, but I don't remember it right now where it is. But it seems that the korban of a yoledes, one of the reasons she has to bring a korban is that while she's giving birth, she's in a lot of pain, and she vows that she's never going to be with her husband again because she doesn't want to go through this pain again. And so, for making this false neder, or neder she mean to keep, that's for some of the korbanos that she has to bring for uh after giving birth. So this statement of Yehudis, the wife of Reb Chia, seems to be in line with that she didn't want to be with her husband because of the pain, and she was basically just making up an excuse. Amarle Rabbanan Rav Chisda, so Rabbanan said to Rav Chisda. So Rav Chisda is in our case, he was trying to evaluate the value of the marble. Amai, why are you trying to investigate? There are witnesses somewhere, perhaps in a place called Idis, that they know the value that was Shava Pruta, so you should hold it, it's Kiddushay Vadai. So he answered, Hashtami Allah, Lisnu, come on. But they're not here, so I don't have to worry about something for witnesses that haven't come and testified yet. Hainud and Lav Hainud Reb Chanina, isn't this the same din of Reb Chanina? Dam Reb Chanina Idea Betzad Estan V'Teyaser. So this was a case in Ksuvos, Rashi says, that when the daughters of Shmuel were held captive, so there's a halacha that if a woman comes to Beis Din, it says that Nishbesu Tahora Ani, I was captive, but they didn't either they didn't have yichud with me or they didn't defile me, she's still muteris to a kohen. But if there's an aid that she if there's aidim that she was held captive, then we don't say that she's tahora. And this seems to work from the din of Pesha Asur or Pesha Hiter or Megu, or maybe because Pesha Asur Pesha Hiter works with Megu. It's in the second second parak of Ksuvos, I think. So they were the daughters of Shmuel were being taken. They went to a base medrash and they said Nishbesu Tahorani. And then later the Adam came and said that they were held captive. So since they were lamdanim, or daughters of a lamdan, so they knew the halacha, if they wouldn't have gone to the base medrash and said that, they would have become aser. So Rabbi Chanina said he didn't want to rely on their own testimony to say that they're mutaros to a kohen. He said, but maybe there's witnesses somewhere else that did see, so we shouldn't rely on them. So that was Reb Chanina says, and Reb so Reb Chanina said, well, they're not here right now, so I don't have to assume that that they were captive because I don't have any Adam here telling me that. So Lav Hanu so Abai v'Rava lo svir lehu lahad Rav Chisda. So Abai and Rava don't pass like Rav Chisda because they said he may kill b'shvir de menalva nafsha gavi shavai nekel b'shasish. They said just because we're makel for a shvuya, because we know that these women make themselves look bad or look unusual or weird, so that the men won't, so that their captors won't be with them. Should we be makel with an Ashes ish? So we in regard to a captive, we will not assume that there's Adam, but for Ashes ish, we will assume that there's Adam. And there were other witnesses. There was remnants of that family in Surah, and the Rabbanan separated that from them, meaning they didn't really want people to get married to them because they felt that there was the first Kiddushin was Kiddushin, and so she wasn't Mekudeshes to the second person. And it's not because the Rabbanan paskin like Shmuel that they were choshesh that it was worth this marble was worth a pruta and madai. Elam mishum disvirlo kabai v'rava. They paskin kabai and Rava that since witnesses could tell us that it really was worth a pruta, so she really was mekudeshes, and it's not just suffix mekudeshes. So Tosfos discusses why here didn't we answer that it was the difference was Kiddushay Vad and Kiddushay Safek. How come he rejected it completely? So it says because the situation was where that two brothers are trying to be Mekadesh her. And if the first one was Mekadesh her, then the second one can never be Mekadesh her. So Rav Chisda was trying to say that she was not Mekudeshes to the first one at all. So therefore the second one was able to be Mekadesh her. And that's why the mother, I don't know, either way she was going to have her as a daughter-in-law, but she wanted the first son to marry her. So she told Rav Chisda, but at the time he was Mekadesh her, it was worth a pruta. But because it seems that so that's why specifically here there was a problem because it wasn't just that the other one was a Kaddish later, before they figured out if the first Kiddushin of the precious of the marble was Mekudeshes or not, she accepted Kiddushin from the guy's brother. So it was a very serious shaila with erva. So that's why Toso says that they didn't give the answer of Kiddushay Safek versus Kiddushay Vadai. How Gavra, we're about 15 lines, almost 15 lines down from the top of Yud Beis Amud Beis. How Gavra de Ikdish Beshutisa de Asa Beshuka. There's a certain person who was Mekudeshes with a mat made of hadassim. Asa is a hadas, so it was a mat made of hadassim in the public marketplace. Shalcha Rav Acha Bar Yehuna Kamei Rav Yosef. Rav Acha Bar Huna sent a shayla in front of Rav Yosef Kagavna Mai, but Salach in this case Shalach Le Nagde Karav Itzur Kitish Kishmuel. You should put him in a nidoy, or you should give him makos de Rabbanan like Rav, but he does need to get for like Shmuel. So I guess the mat was not worth much. So, but he says Itzur Kitish Kishmuel. We're worried that this mat is worth a pruta somewhere else, but even though here it's worth very little. So what's the fact that you should give him malchus according to Rav? The Rav Menaged on Mekadesh B'Shuka. Rav gave lashes, rabbinic lashes, if someone was Mekadesh in the Shuk. V'al Mekadesh B'Biyah, for anyone who's Mekadesh with Biyah. V'al Mekadesh B'Lo Sheduche, if they got married without some type of vetting process, whatever that means, it's called Sheduche. V'al Mevato Gita, and if someone negated a get, because let's say if the husband negated a get and sent it with the shliach doesn't know that it was nullified, he gives the get to a woman, the woman, and neither of them know that it was nullified, she's going to show it to the beis din and she's going to get married. And really, because the husband nullified the get, she's still an Ashes Ish. It's going to cause terrible problems. If she gets remarried, her kids will be mamzerim. And also if someone was speaking badly about a get. Rashi says, for example, a forced get in Yisrael, that it puts Laz Abaneha. So a forced get in Yisrael is motor, as long as the beis din has authority. There's a Rashi in, I think it's around Av Zion in Sanhedrin, that we cannot use force to force a husband to give a get nowadays. It was possible for it to happen if the king or the foreign authorities allowed, but they didn't, to use force to hit a person, let's say, to give the get. So that's what Rashi is saying, that if it was forced from Yisrael, is potentially kosher, but if you were talking against the get there, so then people will say that it wasn't a kosher get, and the children, if she gets remarried and has more children, really they're ksherim, people are going to think they're mamzerim because of you talking about that. So they would give lashes, rabbinic lashes, to people who are talking about against the get. And also if the Beis Din, let's say someone wanted to have someone through Din Torah, so the Beis Din sent a messenger to bring the person to Beis Din, and he hit or insulted the Shliach Beis Din. And if someone left a ban, it's not quite a cherem or a nidor, but a similar thing, the ban was for 30 days, and you didn't rectify whatever he did wrong for the ban to be removed, so then he got hit for not wanting the ban removed. And for a son-in-law who lived in his in-laws' house, there's a famous note of Yehuda, I think it's Siman Hey. Rashi says that there's a certain stam chamoso heves es chasna. A stam mother-in-law loves her son-in-law as a gemara arvei psachim. So there's a famous note of Yehuda where a man was nichshal with his mother-in-law, and he asked for a seder of tshuva. And it's a very interesting tshuva, a lot of fasting and things like that, and sleeping on not comfortable beds, a very long tshuva. The dayer in chalaflo. So it makes it sound like it's only problem if you live in by their mother-in-law, but if you just happen to go in there, it's not such a big deal. But there was a son-in-law who passed through the gate of his mother-in-law's house, and Rav Sheshes gave him malchus, even though he wasn't living in her home. So how made him havudaima chamase mine? Because in that case there was already rumors going around upon him, so he had to go even further away, distance himself further away from the mother-in-law. But for a stam person, they can't live, but they could go or pass by the mother-in-law's house. Nahardai said, Rav only gave malchus for the case of someone who's mekadosh with bia without the shidduch, this vetting process beforehand, but these other cases he didn't give lashes. And another opinion said he only gave malchus for mekadosh bia, even if it was a case where they had shidduchim, because it's not a nice thing to be mekadosh with bia. It's a pritzistic thing. Okay, now we're about 14 lines up from the bottom of your base on the base. How who gathered the kiddush betzipsa de asa. So a certain person was mekadosh with. This is the machatzel shel hadas. What was the so this is a hadas mat. The previous case was b'shutisa de asa was just a branch of a hadas. This one is a case where it was mekadosh with a mat of a hadas. Amrulei v'haleis b'shavar pruta. So they said to him, it's not with the pruta. Why are you being mekadesher? Amar lahu tikdash ba'arba zuzi de ispa. Ba'arba zuzi de ispa, because they're woven into the mat. There's 4 zuzim. So she's not being mekadesh me with the mat, which is not worth much, but for the money that's sewn into the mat, shaklusa ve'ishtika. So she took the money, and she was. But she didn't say okay, so she took the money, she didn't throw it, Rashi says, and she was quiet. She didn't say yes. So Amarava having shetuk lachad matan maos, that's considered being quiet after the giving of the coins. Being quiet after the money was given is nothing. Meaning when the time that he gave her the mat, she didn't know about the coins. So the fact that the coins were in there, she's not consenting to the Kiddushin. Amar Rav Allah, how do I know this? That being quiet after Matan Maos is not approving, it's not accepting the Kiddushin. Amar La, the Tanya, because there's a brisa, Kinsi La, Kinsi Sel Zu B'Pikadon. Take this cell as a pikadon. And then he said, well, no, don't make it a pikadon. Just be mekadesh to me with that cell. If it's when he's giving the coins, she's mekudeshes. But if he already gave it to her, Ratza Mekudeshes, La Ratza and Mekudeshes. If she wanted to, there she could be Mekudeshes with it, but if she didn't, she's not Mekudeshes. So my Ratzta, my Lo Ratzta. What does it mean if she wants? And what does it mean if she doesn't want? Elay Ma Ratzta, the Amra in, La Ratzta, Amra Lo, Mechal Deresha, Ki Amra La, Lo, Nami have a Kiddushin. If she wants, means she says yes, and she doesn't want, she says no, then applies that in the first case, even if she said no, it would still be Kiddushin. Amai. So why would that be true? V'haka Amra Lo, we're on Yud Gimel Amud Aleph now. V'haka Amra Lo. She said no. How why would it be Kiddushin? Elav Ratzta Bar Amma in. Lo Ratzta de Ishtika Mishtaka. So it must mean that if she wanted, that Ratzta means she said yes. Lo Ratzta means she was quiet. V'shvamina Shtika Dachar Matanos below Klum. So, and that's the source that Rava learned that Shtika Achar Matamos is not consent. So we did 4 lines on Yud Gimel Amud Aleph.